Hi everybody, this is Addleytv and I'm back again to bring you my Mythic Plus guide for Frost Mages. Now despite what many people might think, Frost is actually very good at Mythic Plus dungeons, so sit back and relax because I'm going to tell you everything you need to know. Alright, so for Mythic Plus dungeons, it's a race against the clock and we're going to need a few things. Starting with our damage, we're going to want a good amount of cleave and AoE because most of the dungeon will be trash pulls, but we're also going to need single target damage to get us through those boss encounters. The next thing we're going to need is a good sense of awareness, as in higher end mythic dungeons it's not just bosses that can kill you, but some trash packs can be very dangerous, so while pumping out our damage we should always be aware of our surroundings. This brings me to my next point of group coordination. In order to get through some trash packs in higher end Mythic Plus dungeons, you need to cycle through your interrupts, so make sure you have good communication or the damage that some trash packs pump out will be too much for your healer to handle. Now the last thing you're going to want is to always be on the move. If your healer has enough mana, you should always be moving to your next pack, because any time not damaging a mob is wasted time in a dungeon, and in higher end mythics, seconds count. If we're able to accomplish all these things, we should have no problems completing high end Mythic Plus dungeons. So to take a look at how to do this, let's first look at our talents. As mentioned previously in the video, we're going to need good amounts of cleave damage and single target damage. So for the level 15 talent tier, we take Ray of Frost. This handles any kind of single target damage needs we might face, including burst situations when we need to quickly burst down a mob. For example, the Seers in Archway or the Dominators in Eltharian's Lair. For our level 30 talents, we take Shimmer because it lets us get out of sticky situations without ruining our rotation, and it also lets us get around the dungeon a little quicker. The next thing we take is Rune of Power. Now this build focuses on pumping out lots of damage in short amount of time, so with its synergy with Ray of Frost, Ice Nova, and Comet Storm, this is the obvious choice for this tier. For our level 60 talents, we take Ice Nova, not only because it has high damage, but because it can also freeze mobs, giving our other AoE abilities increased critical strike chance. Now there are some mages that recommend splitting ice, however even on 2 targets, it takes 6 Ice Lances before splitting Ice's damage overcomes Ice Nova, and this isn't even including the extra critical strike damage you get from Ice Nova's Shattered mechanic. Next, we take Ice Flows because again, it gets us out of danger areas or closer to the end of the dungeon without interrupting our rotation. For our level 90 talents, we take Frost Bomb for its consistent AoE and its high single target damage. It just takes 1 Ice Lance into Frost Bomb for Frost Bomb's damage to be equal to Arctic Gale's damage boost. So any extra Ice Lances that we can cast in between blizzards is just bonus damage. Not only that, but we can cast more Ice Lances in our Rune of Power than we can blizzards, so that just accentuates the damage boost. For our level 100 talents, we take Comet Storm for its cleave and AoE capabilities. It's too hard to keep Icy Veins going using Thermal Void in between trash pulls, and Glacial Spike with splitting ice only hits 2 targets, and it's better for your group to be able to hit multiple targets so that you can keep cleaving as many things as you can. So now that we know our talents, let's look at how to AoE and cleave. Like I said, most of the dungeon is trash packs, so we need to be able to damage these mobs effectively. We do this by using our Shatter mechanics. We have 4 AoE spells that we need to use Shatter to boost their damage. That's Blizzard, Frozen Orb, Comet Storm, and Ice Nova. So Shatter increases the critical strike chance of our spells against frozen targets. This is how we get high amounts of burst AoE and cleave damage, and we use our Pet Freeze and Ice Nova to get its benefit. Now let's look at how to put these spells into action. We want to put up our Frost Bomb, Blizzard, and then Rune of Power to give ourselves the damage boost. From here we're going to use a Frozen Orb and then dump our Ice Lance proc so that when we Pet Freeze, we don't overlap any charges. Next we Comet Storm, and as the first ticks hit, we're going to use our Pet Freeze. That way our Blizzard, Frozen Orb, and Comet Storm all get the Shatter benefit. Next, before our Pet Nova breaks, we're going to Ice Nova so that it gets the increased critical strike chance as well, and that'll just freeze all the mobs again so our spells continually critical strike. Next, we're going to dump our Ice Lance procs that we got from our Pet Freeze while weaving in as many blizzards as we can. We're also going to use our Ebon Bolt here to gain even more Fingers of Frost procs. So from here, all we do is Blizzard as often as possible while keeping up our Frost Bomb debuff. So now that we know how to cleave and AoE, let's look at our single target rotation. So in Mythic Plus dungeons, we're going to start things off by pre-potting, pre-casting a Blizzard, and then using our Rune of Power. After that, we're going to Icy Veins and get right into our Ray of Frost. Also, if you have the Legendary Ring and there's a mob around, you can use your Pet Freeze to give yourself 15% more haste for your Ray of Frost. After that, we're going to Frost Bomb, Rune of Power, and try to squeeze in as many hard-hitting spells that we have within its duration. So we're going to want to use all these abilities before we lose our Chill to the Core damage buff, while weaving in as many Ice Lances as we can. Now ideally, we're going to start off with our Frozen Orb, then our Ebon Bolt, our Comet Storm, and then lastly our Ice Nova because it has no travel time. So after our opener, we just do our regular rotation where we're trying to build chain reaction stacks and dumping our Fingers of Frost procs into it while we have our Frost Bomb debuff up. We're next going to use our Comet Storm and Ice Nova on cooldown, and we don't need to use a Rune of Power for them because we're going to save that for our next Ray of Frost. However, if we get a Brain Freeze proc, we can use its Winter Chill debuff to give our Ice Nova increased critical strike chance. Also, as an extra tip, if you're far enough away from the boss, you can usually squeeze in your Ice Nova at the end of the Winter's Chill debuff when you use your Frostbolt Flurry Ice Lance combo. That way your Frostbolt, Ice Lance, and Ice Nova all get the increased critical strike chance. The next big things we're going to do is use our Ebon Bolt, and then once it's off cooldown, we're going to Blizzard, Rune of Power, and use our Ray of Frost. From here, we're going to go back into our regular rotation, and then we're going to save the rest of our Rune of Powers again for our next Icy Veins, and that is when we're going to use our second pot. Alright, well that's going to wrap things up for this video, so I hope I could help some of you Frost Mages out there that might be struggling with Mythic Plus content. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But for now, I'm out of here, so peace out everybody.